But he had underestimated one thing: the resilience of humanity. As he gazed at Earth below, the ambassador received an unexpected message, a message from Earth's leaders. It read, "You think you can invade Earth? We'll show you what we're made of." The ambassador blinked, a ripple of doubt coursing through him. What did they mean? Were they already preparing a defense? Could they possibly challenge the might of the Galactic Union? His doubt was brief. He had seen civilizations crumble before him. He would see Earth fall, just like the others. But something about the humans' message felt different. Could they really fight back? As the ambassador prepared to send another transmission, he couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was not going to go down without a fight. The suspense hung thick in the air, like the calm before a storm. The real battle, he realized, had just begun. The coldness of the alien message had shaken humanity to its core. The world's governments were in chaos. But as the panic started to settle, something remarkable began to happen. Earth, which had never been prepared for such a threat, suddenly found itself united. Global leaders set aside their differences, realizing they had no time for division. An alien empire had come, and it was up to every human on Earth to stand together. In the heart of the United States, President Eva Andrews stood before a large display screen in the war room, her eyes narrowing as she reviewed the data coming in from across the globe. The alien fleet hovered in Earth's orbit, its sheer size enough to send a chill down anyone's spine. Their ships were sleek, silver, and powerful, with weapons capable of obliterating entire cities. Humanity was outmatched in nearly every way. But there was one thing the aliens didn't know: Earth's secret weapon. Across the globe, scientists, engineers, and military leaders were working together in total secrecy. A few years before the alien transmission, a small, hidden group had worked tirelessly to develop technology that might one day help Earth defend itself from an alien threat. It was a quantum defense shield, a force field that could absorb and neutralize energy blasts from any form of weaponry, no matter how advanced. But for years, the project had been kept hidden. Even now, as Earth prepared for the worst, only a select few knew the full extent of the shield's power. In the underground lab of a highly classified facility in the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Evelyn Carter, one of Earth's top scientists, stood before a massive console, her fingers flying over the controls. The quantum defense shield was ready to be activated. She had always known that this moment would come, that humanity would be forced to face an invader from beyond the stars. But now, as she stared at the glowing blue screen, she couldn't help but feel a sense of uncertainty. Could they really stop a galactic empire? Was this technology powerful enough to keep Earth safe? She pushed the doubts aside. They had no choice. As Dr. Carter activated the shield, her mind flashed back to the countless hours of testing. The shield wasn't just a physical barrier. It was an energy field designed to absorb and redistribute incoming energy. A laser, a missile, or even a plasma beam would be absorbed by the shield and converted into a form of energy that would be used to power Earth's own defenses. For all their power, the aliens didn't understand just how advanced humanity had become. And they certainly didn't understand Earth's resilience. Back in the war room, President Andrews watched as her top advisors scrambled to assess the alien threat. Satellites were tracking the fleet, and the world's militaries were preparing to defend major cities. But it was clear: conventional weapons wouldn't stand a chance against the alien ships. If Earth was going to survive, they would need to rely on something unexpected. "Activate the shield," Andrews ordered, her voice steadied despite the rising tension. A moment of silence fell over the room as the command was relayed. All eyes turned to the monitors, waiting for confirmation. A few seconds passed, and then the response came. The shield was live. The alien ambassador on his command ship had been watching the humans' every move. He was calm, confident, sure of their inevitable victory. He watched Earth's military prepare, but in his mind, it was a futile effort. He had seen it all before. Primitive species gathering their defenses only to be crushed under the weight of the Galactic Union's superior technology. Nothing could stop them. As the ambassador prepared to send another transmission to Earth's leaders, he was interrupted by an urgent report from his tactical officer. "Ambassador," the officer said, his voice shaking. "The shield. It's been activated. Our weapons are ineffective." The ambassador frowned, confused. "What do you mean ineffective?" "The energy blasts we sent toward Earth's major cities are being absorbed. The shield is redirecting them. Our technology isn't working." The ambassador's heart sank. He couldn't believe it. How could this be? The Galactic Union had conquered dozens of worlds, and no species had ever been able to mount a defense against their weapons. How had these humans, these fragile, insignificant creatures, found a way to stop them? He couldn't let the humans get the upper hand. The invasion had to continue. They were only at the beginning of their mission. The ambassador steeled himself, his face hardening as he prepared to issue new orders to his fleet. "Deploy the full force of our armada," he ordered, his voice cold. "We cannot allow this planet to survive." Back on Earth, President Andrews stood in front of a large screen, her gaze fixed on the incoming alien fleet. They had activated the quantum defense shield. The aliens hadn't been expecting it, and for a brief moment, humanity had gained the upper hand. But President Andrews knew that the battle wasn't over. The shield might have neutralized the initial wave of attacks, but the alien fleet wasn't going to retreat. They would come again, stronger, faster, and with weapons that Earth couldn't even imagine. And that's when it happened. The Earth Defense Network sent out a transmission to the world. It was a message that would make the alien fleet's commanders think twice about invading. It was Earth's defiant declaration. "You want to invade us? We dare you to try." President Andrews turned to her generals. "We've shown them our strength. Now we prepare for the real fight." The alien ambassador sat in his ship, still processing the impossible reality that humans had managed to defend themselves. His fleet was being held back by this mysterious shield, and he didn't know how long it would take to break through. Earth had just sent a message to the entire galaxy, declaring their willingness to fight. For the first time in his life, the ambassador felt a flicker of doubt. Was this really a fight he could win? Or had he underestimated Earth in a way he would soon regret? The battle had only just begun. The morning sky was clear, a rare calm before the storm. Across the world, millions of eyes were glued to their screens, waiting. The alien fleet had arrived. No longer just a distant threat, it was now above Earth's atmosphere. The reality of the situation hit hard. This wasn't a drill. This was the moment when humanity would either fight for its survival or bow to the will of an alien empire. In the United States, President Eva Andrews sat in the war room, her fingers lightly drumming against the table as she watched the fleet's arrival. They had known this day would come, but no one was ever truly prepared for something like this. The alien armada wasn't just big, it was massive. Hundreds of ships hovered in Earth's orbit, their sleek, metallic surfaces reflecting the sun's rays, each one more imposing than the last. The Earth Defense Network's radar was lighting up like a Christmas tree. The fleet had entered Earth's atmosphere, and it was headed straight toward the major cities. The countdown had begun. But this time, there would be no surprise. Humanity was ready. "President Andrews, we have confirmation." General Lee's voice broke through the silence. "The fleet has reached orbit. They're preparing to deploy forces." Eva nodded, her face grim. "We can't allow them to land." "Activate the quantum defense shield. Now." A team of technicians worked quickly, typing in the final commands. The quantum defense shield had held strong during the first wave of attacks, but they didn't know how long it would last against the full power of the Galactic Union's fleet. It had been built for defense, not for an all-out war. But they had no choice. The shield flickered to life once again, casting a faint blue glow across the atmosphere. At that moment, the first wave of alien ships began their descent, preparing to engage Earth's defenses. The Galactic Union had made it clear. They would take Earth by force, if necessary. Back on the alien command ship, the ambassador stood before a large holographic display, watching as the fleet moved into position. His species had conquered countless worlds, wiped out entire civilizations, and absorbed the resources of countless planets. It was a simple process, a few quick strikes, and the invasion was complete. But this time, something felt different. The Earth's response had caught him off guard. Their defense had been unexpected, and despite their superior technology, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't going to be as easy as he'd hoped. The humans had surprised him once before. The ambassador wasn't about to make the same mistake again. He looked down at Earth, the blue planet glowing in the distance. "Prepare for full-scale bombardment," he ordered. "This planet will fall." Across the globe, human forces were mobilizing. Earth's major cities had been evacuated. The most valuable targets, military bases, research facilities, and key infrastructure, were all being defended with everything humanity had. The alien fleet had made one fatal error. They had underestimated human unity. "General Lee, we have new intel," Dr. Carter, the scientist behind a quantum defense shield, reported. "The aliens are preparing a full-scale bombardment. They're going to try to overwhelm the shield." Eva turned to face Dr. Carter, her expression hardening. "How long can the shield hold?" "The quantum defense shield is strong," Dr. Carter said, "but the alien fleet is massive. We'll need additional energy to keep it going at full capacity." Lee stepped forward, his face serious. "We've set up energy reserves across the globe. If we divert power from our military satellites and all major power plants, we should be able to sustain the shield for an extended period." Eva nodded. "Do it, and keep me updated." The tension was unbearable. All across the world, people were glued to their television screens, their radios, or their phones. News outlets broadcasted live coverage of the alien fleet's arrival. Citizens of every country watched as Earth's most advanced defense system stood against the overwhelming might of the Galactic Union. And then, without warning, the first wave of alien weaponry was launched. Bright streaks of energy tore through the sky as the Galactic Union's fleet fired their plasma cannons at Earth. The power of the attack was overwhelming. For a moment, it seemed as though the shield would shatter under the pressure. It vibrated, its blue glow flickering. But then, just as quickly as it had started, the energy blasts were absorbed. The shield held firm, deflecting every blast like a wall of invisible force. It was an incredible sight, almost as if the Earth itself were fighting back against the alien onslaught. But the ambassador had seen these kinds of attacks before. He knew that the shield wouldn't last long. Humanity was clever, but no one had ever stood up to the Galactic Union like this. The alien ships above Earth began to move in unison, positioning themselves for a final, decisive strike. But just as the ambassador ordered his fleet to fire again, something unexpected happened. The quantum defense shield had absorbed enough energy to power up Earth's counteroffensive systems. A network of energy-based weapons, hidden deep beneath Earth's surface, suddenly activated. Each one fired powerful beams of concentrated energy directly at the alien fleet. The first shot hit one of the alien ships directly, tearing through its shields like paper. The ship exploded in a bright flash, disintegrating into space dust. The rest of the fleet paused, as if in disbelief. The humans were fighting back, and they were fighting smart. On Earth, President Andrews watched as the alien fleet started to retreat. She couldn't believe it. Could it be? Were they actually forcing the Galactic Union to fall back? "General Lee, did we just—" Her voice trailed off, not daring to finish the thought. "We're not done yet, Madam President," General Lee replied, his face set with determination. "This is just the first battle. The aliens will be back, and they'll bring everything they've got." In the alien command ship, the ambassador's calm expression shattered as he watched the retreating fleet. His hands gripped the edges of his console as he struggled to comprehend the scene unfolding before him. His once confident demeanor was replaced with cold anger and frustration. The humans had caught them off guard. They had something the ambassador had never expected: hope. The Galactic Union wasn't going to take this defeat lying down. As the ambassador prepared to send a message to the rest of his fleet, he couldn't shake the feeling that this fight would not end as easily as he had hoped. The battle had just begun, and Earth's victory over the first wave of the alien fleet felt like a fleeting triumph. President Eva Andrews knew that this was only the start of a much larger war. The aliens would regroup, they would adapt, and Earth had to be ready for whatever came next. The atmosphere was tense in the war room. All eyes were on the large holographic map displaying the movements of the alien fleet. Despite the successful defense, the ambassador's retreat didn't mean they were giving up. They were just recalibrating. "Madam President," General Lee's voice cut through the silence, "the enemy is regrouping. They've suffered significant damage, but they're not retreating completely. Their larger ships are pulling back to their secondary staging area, but we can expect another wave soon." Eva Andrews nodded, clenching her fists at her side. They had dealt a serious blow, but it hadn't been enough to break the aliens' will. Humanity wasn't out of danger yet. "I want all military forces on high alert," she ordered. "Prepare for the next wave. We need to keep them from getting any closer to Earth." While the President and her generals coordinated Earth's defenses, another surprise was unfolding on the alien side of things. Back in the heart of the Galactic Union's command ship, the ambassador was seething with frustration. The humans had done something no one had anticipated. Despite their primitive technology, they had managed to push back the mighty Galactic Empire. This had never happened before. He paced back and forth, his mind racing. He could feel the weight of his species' pride pressing down on him. They had underestimated Earth, and now they would pay the price. "Prepare for a second wave of attacks," he ordered, his voice low and filled with barely contained rage. "This time, we will crush them. Send the entire fleet." For the next few hours, it seemed as though the Earth had held its breath. The first wave of destruction had been brutal, but it wasn't over. Every military leader and scientist was working tirelessly to ready humanity for what was coming. But as each second passed, something unexpected began to happen. An incredible discovery that would change the tide of the war. In the heart of one of Earth's top research facilities, Dr. Evelyn Carter stood in front of a glowing holographic screen. She had been working nonstop for days, analyzing the alien technology that was now locked in Earth's most secure labs. The alien weapons had been incredibly advanced, but they had something that Earth's scientists could study and possibly replicate. She had spent hours combing through the data from the initial skirmishes, and now something clicked. The energy that powered the alien ships, their plasma weapons, their engines, was more than just highly advanced. It was unstable. There was a flaw, a vulnerability in their technology that could be exploited. Dr. Carter immediately sent a message to President Andrews. The President's eyes widened as she read the encrypted message. Dr. Carter had discovered something no one had expected. The Galactic Union's weapons and ships had a critical energy flaw, one that, if exploited, could disable their entire fleet. But it wasn't just a matter of attacking. It would take precision. It would take planning. And it would require all of Earth's resources. "General Lee," President Andrews said, her voice steady despite the urgency, "we have a chance to end this. Dr. Carter has discovered a weakness in their fleet. We need to strike now, before they can recover from the first assault." The stakes had never been higher. The world's military leaders were working together to plan the most daring attack Earth had ever attempted. All eyes were on Dr. Carter's research, knowing that a single well-placed strike could completely disrupt the alien fleet. At that moment, the second wave of alien ships began to enter Earth's atmosphere. The massive fleet hovered, their ships glinting like stars in the sky. But this time, the alien fleet was more cautious. They had learned from their first defeat. The ambassador had ordered the fleet to move with greater precision, keeping their ships spread out to avoid being overwhelmed by the defense shields again. "We can't let them get any closer," President Andrews said, her voice firm. "Ready all counteroffensive systems. This time, we go for the heart of their fleet." As the alien ships began their assault, the Galactic Union's ambassador felt the thrill of power. This time, they would succeed. There would be no more surprises from these humans. The ambassador gave the signal, and the alien fleet launched an intense barrage of energy blasts directly toward Earth. The sky was filled with light as the alien weapons hammered Earth's defense shield. The quantum defense shield, stretched to its limit, absorbed the attacks with a dazzling display of light. But for each energy strike the shield deflected, it weakened just a little bit more. The humans were holding their ground, but the strain was beginning to show. It was then that Earth's counteroffensive systems activated, powered by the stored energy from the previous wave. Earth's most powerful weapons, hidden deep underground, fired their first shots. The blasts of concentrated energy shot into the alien fleet with incredible precision. The first hit destroyed an entire ship, sending it spiraling into the void. A series of well-aimed shots followed, each one taking down another ship in the alien fleet. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt. Earth's scientists had studied their technology, found the flaw, and now it was payback time. The ambassador watched in disbelief as his fleet took hit after hit, their ships exploding one by one. The humans were actually fighting back, and they were winning. Back on Earth, President Andrews was watching the battle unfold, her eyes scanning the live feeds from military satellites. The counterattack was working. The aliens were being pushed back. Their ships were disintegrating in Earth's atmosphere, their power sources destabilizing under the precision of humanity's weapons. "We can win this," she whispered to herself. But then, just as the Earth forces were preparing for the final push, something unexpected happened. A warning signal flashed across the screens in the war room. The alien fleet was activating self-destruct protocols. The ambassador had ordered his ships to explode upon defeat in a last-ditch effort to take Earth down with them. "Get everyone back," General Lee shouted. "The self-destructs are triggered. Evacuate. Now." The air in the war room was thick with tension as the countdown to destruction began. On every screen, Earth's military personnel saw the horrifying warning flashing in bright red letters. "Self-destruct initiated." The Galactic Union ships were going to explode, each one capable of wiping out entire cities if they went off all at once. President Eva Andrews could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. This was the moment that would decide everything. "General Lee, what's the status of the shield?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around her. "Madam President," General Lee replied urgently, "we're at full capacity. The shield is holding, but we need to act quickly. If we can't disable their self-destruct protocols, Earth will be destroyed along with the entire alien fleet." President Andrews glanced at the holographic map, her mind racing. She knew the clock was ticking. The alien ships were already on the verge of collapse. They had fought hard to stop Earth's counteroffensive, but now, their desperation had turned into madness. A full-scale destruction was their last option. "We can't let them take us down with them," she muttered. "Do we have any way of disabling the self-destructs?" Dr. Carter, still hard at work in her lab, connected to the war room via a secure channel. "There's one chance. The self-destruct systems are controlled by a central hub. If we can access the command ship and disable it, the rest of the fleet won't be able to activate their explosions. But it's a risky mission. We'll need to infiltrate the command ship from the inside." As the alien fleet's destruction countdown continued, Eva was faced with a heart-wrenching decision. Send in a team to infiltrate the command ship, a ship that was surrounded by thousands of alien vessels, with no guarantee of success, or risk letting the self-destruct happen and wipe out everything. The decision wasn't easy, but she knew there was no other way. She looked at General Lee, her eyes filled with determination. "Prepare a team. We're going to take their command ship down." Meanwhile, in orbit, The Galactic Union's command ship was ready to give the order for total annihilation. The ambassador stood before the massive control panel, his eyes narrowed in cold fury. His ships were falling apart, but he wasn't about to give up. If he couldn't conquer this planet, he would destroy it. The self-destruct countdown had already begun. He had lost too many ships, but Earth would burn, and their resistance would be erased. There was no retreat, no mercy. He gave the final order to activate the self-destruct for all remaining ships. Back on Earth, the special infiltration team was assembled. Among them was Captain Aiden Hayes, a highly trained operative, chosen for his expertise in high-risk missions. He knew this mission was nearly impossible, but Earth's survival depended on it. "We're the last line of defense," Captain Hayes said, his voice grim but resolute. "Our mission is clear. We get to the command ship, disable the self-destruct system, and get out before we're torn to pieces. No heroics. We get in, we get out." His team nodded in unison. There would be no second chances. Each one of them knew they might never come back from this. As the team prepared to launch, President Andrews watched the live feed. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair, knuckles white from the strain. This mission was humanity's final hope. "May the gods be with them," she whispered, though she knew it wasn't divine intervention that would save them. It was the skill, courage, and determination of those brave enough to make the impossible happen. In the vastness of space, the infiltration team was launched in a specially designed stealth shuttle. The shuttle was equipped with cloaking technology to help them slip past the alien fleet unnoticed. As they entered the heart of the enemy armada, they could feel the pulse of the impending destruction as each ship around them ticked down to its final moments. Captain Hayes looked out of the shuttle window, his breath held in suspense. "We're almost there. Stay sharp." They had less than 15 minutes to reach the command ship, infiltrate it, and stop the self-destruct sequence before it was too late. Inside the Galactic Union command ship, the ambassador stood at the center of his control room, his hands clenched into fists. He could hear the hum of the ship's engines as they powered up for the final strike. The clock was ticking. Earth would soon feel the full force of their might, and all of humanity would be erased in a blinding flash. He smiled bitterly. "This will be the end of your world." But just as he was about to issue the final command, an alert flashed across his console. "Unauthorized entry detected." He froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. "What is this?" The infiltration team was inside. They had breached the ship's defenses and were moving swiftly through the darkened corridors, carefully avoiding alien patrols. They knew the clock was ticking. Every second counted. "We're almost at the control hub," Captain Hayes said, his voice low but filled with urgency. "Prepare for the final push." They had reached the core of the command ship, and in front of them stood the massive self-destruct control panel. They could hear the countdown ticking in their earpieces. 5 minutes. "Cover me," Hayes said, his hands already working on the control panel. He had trained for this moment. He knew the codes. He knew the risk. But it didn't matter. If they failed, Earth would be lost. Back on Earth, President Andrews watched in tense silence, the world holding its breath. If they succeeded, humanity would survive. But if they failed, everything, everyone, was gone. In the command ship, the ambassador slammed his fist onto the console, fury boiling over. His fleet was under attack from within. The humans had infiltrated his ship. His victory was slipping through his fingers, and he couldn't allow it. "No," he shouted. "Do whatever it takes. Stop them." Captain Hayes had one more task to complete. He pulled a final lever, and the countdown came to a screeching halt. The countdown had come to a halt. The tension in the air was palpable as Captain Aiden Hayes and his team held their breath. The control panel that once showed the countdown now displayed a bright, flashing warning. "Self-destruct system disabled." "Mission accomplished," Captain Hayes muttered to his team, his voice hoarse with relief. "But don't get comfortable. We've got to get out of here. Fast. They had done it. They had stopped the self-destruct mechanism. Earth's survival was no longer hanging on the edge of a knife. But their mission was far from over. Back on Earth, President Eva Andrews and General Lee watched the screens in the war room with a mixture of disbelief and awe. The infiltration team had succeeded in disabling the self-destruct. The alien fleet was no longer a direct threat, but they weren't out of danger yet. The alien ambassador's anger would not go unanswered. "We've stopped the destruction," President Andrews said, her voice steady. "But now we need to finish this. We need to take down their command ship, take down the source of all this chaos." General Lee nodded, his fingers already flying over his console. "We've got several more surprises left for them. Our final strike will take them out for good." In space, the alien ambassador was in a state of disbelief. His entire plan had been ruined by a handful of humans. He could feel his empire's power slipping away. The confidence that had once radiated from him was now replaced by frustration and rage. How could this happen? He snarled, pacing back and forth in the control room. The glowing map of the battle above Earth flickered before him, showing Earth's military forces regrouping and preparing for their next move. "You think you can stop us, humans?" he growled. "I've lost my fleet, but I still have a weapon you could never imagine." He activated his communication system, connecting directly to the heart of the Galactic Empire. "Prepare the final phase," he ordered. "We'll make them regret their interference." Back aboard the alien command ship, Hayes and his team were racing against the clock. They had successfully disabled the self-destruct mechanism, but they had triggered something else, an alarm. Alien forces were pouring into the hallways now, and every corner was filled with danger. "We need to get to the shuttle bay," Hayes said through gritted teeth. "That's our only way out of here. Now move." The team sprinted down narrow hallways, dodging alien patrols as they made their way toward the escape pods. Every step took them closer to the point of no return. If they didn't escape, they would be trapped in the heart of the enemy's stronghold. But as they reached the shuttle bay, they were met with a terrifying sight. The doors were sealed shut, and alien forces had arrived in full force. The hallway was filled with soldiers, weapons raised, ready to attack. "Looks like we're not getting out easy," one of Hayes' team members said, his voice laced with tension. "Do we fight or try to find another way?" "We fight," Hayes said, pulling out his weapon. "We'll carve a path if we have to." The battle began. The sound of gunfire filled the air as the humans fought back with everything they had. The aliens were relentless, but the humans were more determined than ever. They had no choice but to hold their ground. As Hayes fired his weapon, he caught a glimpse of something on the far side of the shuttle bay. The escape pods. They were only a few yards away, but the path was blocked by a growing wall of alien forces. Time was running out. "We have to move now," Hayes shouted. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Andrews was watching the developments unfold. The alien ambassador's last-ditch efforts had begun. The Galactic Union had initiated the final phase, something more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Earth's military defenses were prepared, but now they were up against something they couldn't even understand. "What's the ambassador doing?" General Lee asked, eyes fixed on the screen. "What's this final phase?" "I don't know," Andrews said, her voice cold with determination. "But I know one thing. Whatever it is, it won't be enough. We're not going down without a fight." The clock was ticking. Hayes' team was closing in on the escape pods, but the aliens were closing in on them fast. They were trapped in a deadlock, unable to go forward and unable to retreat. "We need a diversion," one of the soldiers said. "Something big." "I'll do it," Hayes said, his voice resolute. "I'll draw their fire. You get to the pods. I'll buy you time." "No, Captain," one of the team members said. "We don't leave anyone behind." "You will leave me behind," Hayes said with a hard stare. "This is the only way." He turned, running toward the central control room, where the main reactor of the ship was located. If he could cause a small explosion there, it would create enough chaos for his team to escape. He only hoped he'd be able to do it before they were all caught. Inside the command center, the ambassador was preparing his weapon, the final weapon. He had activated the supernova device, a weapon that could destroy an entire planet with a single shot. It was a last-ditch effort to ensure Earth's destruction, no matter what happened. "No more mercy," the ambassador hissed, his eyes flashing with madness. "If I can't have this planet, neither can you." Back in the shuttle bay, Captain Hayes had reached the reactor. His fingers worked frantically at the console, trying to destabilize the core. The alarms blared louder, and the walls shook with the power of the alien ship's technology. "Get to the pods," Hayes shouted into his comms. "Go now." His team barely had time to react before the reactor went into meltdown mode. A massive explosion erupted, throwing Hayes back and lighting up the entire ship in a blazing burst of light. The explosion rocked the command ship, a violent shockwave that sent the entire vessel into chaos. The walls shook and the lights flickered, casting eerie shadows over the remains of the ship's once pristine hallways. The crew of the alien command ship scrambled to control the damage, but they were already too late. The self-destruct had been disabled, but now they faced a far greater threat: the meltdown of their own reactor. Captain Hayes had no time to waste. He lay motionless in the corridor, his body battered from the force of the blast. The sound of approaching alien soldiers echoed through the ship. If he didn't get up and move, they would find him, and all his efforts would be in vain. With a grimace of pain, he forced himself to his feet. His heart pounded in his chest as he staggered toward the shuttle bay, hoping against hope that his team had made it. The ship was in complete disarray. Fires burned in multiple sections, and the hull groaned under the strain of the explosion. The supernova device was still active, ticking down, threatening to unleash the death of a planet in a single catastrophic strike. Back on Earth, President Eva Andrews was watching the chaos unfold from her war room. The screen showed the disarray of the alien command ship, but nothing could prepare her for the shock that followed. The Galactic Union's supernova device was powering up. "General Lee, do we have anything left that can stop this?" she asked, her voice steady, though her mind raced. They had fought so hard to reach this point. Earth had survived the alien fleet, but now an even greater threat loomed. General Lee looked grim. "We're looking at a massive energy release. If we don't intercept it now, it will take out Earth's atmosphere and everything within 1,000 miles. It's unlike anything we've faced before." A tense silence fell over the room. Earth had been through so much, but this was something else entirely. "We need to stop it at the source," President Andrews said with determination. "We need to destroy that weapon before it launches." In the shuttle bay of the alien command ship, Hayes stumbled toward the escape pods, barely able to keep his balance. The blast had disoriented him, but he pushed through the pain. His mission wasn't over yet. The supernova device was still active, still counting down, and if he didn't stop it, the entire planet would be obliterated. He reached the shuttle bay just in time to see the last of his team boarding the escape pods. "Get out of here," Hayes shouted, waving them away. "You need to leave now. I'll hold them off." "No," one of his team members protested. "We're not leaving without you." "Go," Hayes yelled, his voice desperate. "I'm not going to make it, but you can. Now go." With no time to argue, the team members launched the pods into space, narrowly avoiding the advancing alien forces. The escape pods shot away from the alien command ship, heading toward Earth. Hayes turned to face the alien soldiers, their weapons aimed straight at him. He had one last thing to do. He sprinted toward the heart of the ship, the supernova device, hoping against hope that he could disable it in time. His mind raced as he calculated his next move. If he could somehow reach the device's central control panel and overload its power, maybe, just maybe, he could prevent Earth's destruction. In space, the alien command ship was descending toward Earth, its massive form casting a shadow over the planet below. The supernova device was nearing the final stage of activation. In less than 10 minutes, Earth would be wiped from existence. The ambassador watched from his command center, rage bubbling under his calm exterior. He had lost. But if he couldn't have Earth, then no one would. The countdown to launch had begun. There was no turning back now. Captain Hayes reached the supernova device, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The alien soldiers were closing in on him, but he didn't hesitate. His eyes were fixed on the control panel. He had seen its design before, and he knew exactly what he needed to do. The device was a one-of-a-kind weapon, designed to harness the power of a dying star. If it was activated, Earth would cease to exist. His hands moved quickly, frantically working to decipher the alien technology. 5 minutes. The timer was flashing, and every second felt like a lifetime. With a deep breath, Hayes found the power controls. He knew this was a one-way ticket, but it was the only shot he had. His hand hovered over the control panel, his heart racing in his chest. Back on Earth, the situation was becoming dire. The supernova device was still active, and their last remaining option was to try to intercept the blast. President Andrews turned to General Lee with urgency. "We need to buy Captain Hayes more time. Can we get a fleet up there?" Lee shook his head. "We don't have enough time to assemble anything substantial. It's up to Hayes. He's our last chance." Andrews clenched her fists. "Then we wait. We wait for him to do the impossible." Inside the alien command ship, the supernova device was seconds from detonation. Hayes's fingers were trembling as he worked against the clock. His mind raced, but he was calm. He had done the impossible before, and he would do it again. 2 minutes. He input the final override code, watching as the system flickered. The alien technology hummed, its lights flashing, and then nothing. The countdown stopped. The device powered down. Hayes collapsed to his knees, exhaustion and relief flooding his body. He had done it. Earth had been saved. On Earth, the countdown to the device's activation had frozen. The screams in the war room went quiet. A collective breath was held, and then the reports started to come in. The supernova device had been disabled. "We did it," General Lee said quietly, disbelief and awe in his voice. "Earth is safe," President Andrews whispered. But the battle wasn't over. On the alien command ship, the ambassador's fury reached a boiling point. His empire had failed, and now there was nothing left for him but vengeance. "We will return," he spat, his face twisted in rage. "This is not the end."